So let me tell you a little story about a guy who meant the world to me, my dad. I was truly a dad's girl, and as I grew up, my dad was my mentor, my hero. He was everything to me, and in the height of COVID, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's on a Zoom call. And here I was getting a diagnosis. Even though I had been a professional for many, many years, that diagnosis hit me in a very different way. It was almost as if I got punched in the gut. And through his disease process, I had to learn how to communicate with him in a very different way. Even though professionally I knew all the right things to do, emotionally it took me into a very different space. So what did I learn through my journey with my dad? I learned that I needed to really enter into his own reality. My name is Anita Irvin, the Director of Community Engagement here at Paragon Home Care. And today we're going to talk about communication and tips that might be very helpful for you when dealing with a loved one who has cognitive impairment. Number one, we need to understand that when somebody's been diagnosed with cognitive impairment, the reality is it's not going to get better. When I heard that my dad had Alzheimer's disease, the reality was I knew I was slowly losing my dad to a cognitive impairment, and he was slowly fading away from the man I once knew. It helped me understand that as I tried to communicate with him, I needed to change the way that I was communicating and not expect him to change. Number two, we need to understand that we live in a world that is very fast-paced. You and I do things in a very quick way. We process things very quickly. Somebody with cognitive impairment, it typically takes about 90 seconds for them to process what we ask them to be able to do what we're asking them to do. When I was asking my dad to help me with a task, there were times that I had to slow down. I had to ask the question in a different way, and then sometimes had to demonstrate what I was asking him to do for him to understand what was being asked of him. One of the last gifts that I got from my dad was in 2023 on my birthday. When I arrived at my dad's house in the morning, like I would do every day at 6:30 in the morning to give him his medication, I said, "Dad, today's August 16th. And he looked at me after a long pause and said, "That's your birthday." And I said, "Yes, Dad, that's correct." And then I asked him, "Is there anything that you would like to leave with me?" And he said, "Honey, I love you." And understanding that my dad was not a super emotional guy as I was growing up was such a gift. And I think even in cognitive impairment, there are times that we can have silver linings. And so I encourage you, even as you go through the dementia process, capture those moments, hold on to those moments, and create those moments that you can with your loved one. Number three, we want to ask very simple questions, especially as we go through the disease process. Are you in pain? Yes or no. If you don't get a response, maybe it's, are you hurting? Maybe they understand that word versus pain. Maybe holding up two outfits. Would you like to wear this or this? You're allowing them to still have control and allowing them to respond in an appropriate way, and you're giving them an opportunity to be a part of their care. So how we communicate allows them to still partake in the control and how they're living their life on an everyday basis. Number four, I encourage all families to seek out support. What does that look like? On one hand, it could be a support group for the care partner to make sure that their cup is being filled, because as a care partner, care is hard and you're grieving the loss of your loved one. You might also want to get help from a home care company. When you're looking at choosing a home care company, you might want to ask some questions about their training. You might want to ask about the caregiver that's going to be providing care to your loved one. Do they understand the disease process? What type of training have they been through? Has there been any demonstration that that caregiver understands and is demonstrating that they understand the book knowledge? What is the ongoing training for that caregiver? Here at Paragon Home Care, we are putting our caregivers through the Alzheimer's, Dementia, and Disease Seminar. We've invested and are choosing to put them through 8 hours of dementia care. After that, we're now starting to put them through a virtual reality program to give them a better understanding of what living with cognitive impairment is all about. And then ultimately, we do make home visits to see how they're demonstrating the information that they have learned in the classroom setting so that we are providing the best quality of care for folks that are living with cognitive impairment in the home setting. We want to come alongside you as the care partner and provide respite care for you and love and support and the care after the ADL piece of it for your loved one. What does that look like? Everybody can do toileting and bathing and dressing, but it's the care after the ADL. It's understanding the person with the cognitive impairment. Just because they have a disease doesn't mean we lose who that person is. I'll give you a great example. My dad was a helper. My dad wanted to feel needed and useful. And so as he went through the disease process, we found ways that he could still be helpful in the home. He could still be helpful to me as a daughter, which allowed him to feel great about himself in his disease process. And it was a win-win because it took the pressure off of me and my mom to entertain him all the time. Each individual is different with cognitive impairment. Some people like to read. Some people might have been an elementary school teacher. And so creating meaningful engagement activities is another piece that sets Paragon Home Care aside from other home care companies. We would love to support you and your loved one through your journey. Please feel free to reach out and use us as a resource, and we will walk alongside of you through this journey.